Hey cats, it's your midsole man Eddbud here. The ADIZERO SL from Adidas, probably one of the worst shoes I've reviewed on the channel. It was firm, it was tight, it was uninspiring, and it really wasn't all that fun to run in. So when I heard that Adidas were dropping the ADIZERO SL2, I didn't really have huge expectations, but they've proved me wrong and turned it round. This one's an absolute banger. Let's check it out. Thanks for tuning in, people. It's always appreciated. Help the channel to continue to grow by hitting that subscribe button, but also giving this video a thumbs up like and dropping us a comment too for the algorithm. Dankeschön. So recently asked the viewers as to which shoe I should pick up. I gave like 4 different options, and all 3 of the main shoes scored a similar number of votes. One of those shoes was the ADIZERO SL2 from Adidas. So I picked up a pair from Start Fitness. These cost me just under 100 quid with a little bit of discount, and you also get a free pair of socks as well. So, you know, what's not to like? The SL2 in my UK 11 or US 11.5 is weighing in at 272 grams or 9.6 ounces. I love the aesthetic of this one. You've got the fruit salad sweet style outsole, a little bit of the orange there and the pink. It really does set the shoe off beautifully. Really nice looking model. So we're losing about 13 grams or 0.4 ounces from the ADIZERO SL that came out previously. The SL2 is featuring both Light Strike and Light Strike Pro foam. This time it's kind of like a cage around the Light Strike Pro. There's a lot more of it as well underfoot, though there's no way on earth that the Light Strike here in the midsole is the standard stuff. It's a lot softer than we had in the previous version of the shoe. Feels to me a little bit more like the Light Strike 2.0 that we've seen in the Boston 12 and the Adios 8. I'm getting a typical Sure A durometer score for the Light Strike Pro here around about 30, and the Light Strike stuff here maybe about 35 through to about 38. It's definitely a little bit softer, a bit more malleable. We've got a slightly firmer outsole rubber they've used here. It's not the Continental or Adiwear stuff. This is coming in at around about Sure A 70, so yeah, quite a bit firmer than typically seen on the underside of Adidas shoes. I've got a 4-foot width at the widest point measuring 11.8 centimeters and a heel width measuring 8.5 at the widest point. Got to talk the stack, of course. In the heel we've got about 38 millimeters and 29 millimeters up front, making for a 9mm drop. And that's exactly what we've got on the Adidas website. I normally see 2 to 3 millimeters added on to the sample size midsole stacks, so spot on. So clearly my measurements are very accurate. We'll kick off the review on this one with the upper first. So we've got something quite similar here, I guess, to the Adios 6 or 7 upper, if you really enjoyed that one. There's a nice conforming mesh here. It's quite breathable too. I think this one will work reasonably well if you're in a warmer climate. There's some decent padding up through the middle of the shoe here in the tongue, and they've added a little extra just where the laces will create that pressure, so it was a really comfortable shoe on foot. The padding here just negates any tension that you might get from those laces. They are slightly thinner in terms of the width, and perhaps not the greatest laces. They're slightly cheaper sort of variety here. I would suggest that if you have quite a wide foot, it's probably not the greatest shoe for you. It hasn't got the deepest or widest toe box, and it does taper in quite a bit here. But if you like your shoes nice and foot hugging, that sort of typical European Adidas style fit, then the SL2 will be a real banger. Easy to get a good lockdown here with the laces. I would suggest they're perhaps a touch long if you're going to use a standard bow, and maybe a little bit short if you're going to do a runner's knot, but it's not a massive problem really. Probably one of the first things I might swap out is those laces, put in some slightly higher quality ones. But this is a more budget orientated shoe, certainly for the ADIZERO line. Either way, on my initial runs, I managed to get a really good lockdown. Didn't have to stop and retighten the shoe or adjust the laces. Think of this one as a slightly plusher Adios Pro or Takumi Sen style upper. You can certainly feel the DNA of those shoes here, but with a little bit more padding. But it's certainly not like a super padded Pegasus or like a Go Ghost from Brooks. It's a little bit less to the upper than something like the Velocity Nitro as well from Puma. Still nice and light, but with decent padding. They've got the balance just right here. I have not seen the presence yet of a wide version of this shoe. Maybe that will come in the next few weeks. So if you've got a normal or narrow width foot, this one could be absolutely fantastic for you. Let's not forget it's a daily mile masher. This one isn't a race shoe, so only really the slightly extreme taper to the toe box and those sort of cheaper laces sour the upper score. Pretty darn good though. I'm going to give this one a 2.7 out of 3 for the upper after my initial runs. Midsole, midsole, midsole now. The midsole on the SL2, an absolute triumph. It's on a comfort tip really. We've got that Light Strike Pro here and there's way more of it now underfoot. That top tier foam is a little bit more prominent and we now have the sort of super flexible, almost spongy Light Strike here to sort of contain it and stop it from getting damaged. This is so different to the last version of the shoe. It's unrecognizable almost. Maybe this is Light Strike 2.0, but it's nothing like the last version. Underfoot feel is superb, cushion, fun, and really capable of a variety of paces without it feeling unstable or mushy. It's responsive when you want it to be. It just feels like a slightly more nimble version of the Boston 12, I suppose, without those energy rods or any other sort of additions to the midsole. Now, I really like the Boston 12 for its versatility, but I feel this one's perhaps even more versatile, especially if you don't want a shoe that's got some sort of carbon elements to it. You just want a standard, more traditional model. Then the SL2 is right up there. It's kind of ideal mix really if you want to do some speed training, maybe some higher effort potential there to this shoe, but it's also a nice impact protector if you're landing a little bit further back in the heel. It's just really easy to chuck it on and see how you feel really when you head out there. I found it great for those sort of daily activities where you might vary the pace somewhat. I've used this one for daily runs totaling 11 miles so far. Shoe's breaking in really nicely. I mean, it feels really usable and stable out the box. And I've got to say, this is probably hands down one of the best daily shoes in this price bracket that I've tried out for a long time. It's started to feel even better actually now it's kind of bedded in a little bit and broken in. At last, we've got a worthy addition to the Adizero lineup in terms of a daily option. The previous version wasn't even close, but this is absolutely fantastic. You could pair these up as a training option if you're using the Adizero Adios Pro or perhaps the Takumi Sen as well, and you could easily race in these as well as they've got a really nice light and nimble feel to them. No rods, plates or torsion systems to worry about. Just a simple midsole that performs really nicely. The two foams really do complement each other. I'm going to give the Adizero SL2 a 3 out of 3 for the midsole after my initial runs. Outsole wise, the stripy nature of the shoe here is quite intriguing. It does complement the midsole here, the slightly softer slats. There's a small heel cutout as well. It gives you that kind of trampoline-like feel back there. And I really like this little window that they've cut out of the midsole as well, just showing you the Light Strike Pros in there. And you can feel it too. The rubber here is grippy and malleable too, and it amplifies the cushion that's on offer. It has seemed to break in a little bit. And it's also quite flexible, I suppose, as well. It doesn't kind of control the actual smoothness of the shoe. I guess the main issue with this type of outsole is that you get little rocks and debris sort of stuck in the slats, but they appear to be of an appropriate depth and sort of width, and the spacing here is good enough that I've got nothing trapped in there whatsoever so far. I mean, I have picked up the Kafuzi colorway of this one, so of course dirt and debris isn't going to look quite so prominent, I suppose. Now, Adidas have only mentioned this is a rubber outsole. There's no talk of Adiwear or their Continental, but at this price, you know, who cares about that? Is it grippy? Yes. Is there some good traction? Absolutely. We don't perhaps know about durability though of the outsole on the SL2. Only time will tell with that, so I will update you as I get some more miles into the shoe. I mean, if anything, they could have weight relieve things further by perhaps, you know, reducing a little bit more of the rubber, but in fairness, it's a pretty minimal spreading. Kind of nitpicking there, so going to give it a 2.8 out of 3 so far for the outsole, only reduced by the fact that I really don't know what this is going to be like over the miles. I guess at around about 100 miles we'll know for sure whether the outsole is going to hold up. Lastly, we've got to talk value on this one. So 110 quid here in the UK at retail. I paid a bit under that. I got like 10% discount over at Start Fitness. They're not sponsoring me or anything, that's just where I bought them from. At like 100 quid, this is like a no-brainer, seriously, in terms of the cushion, the comfort and the usability that you're going to get out of the SL2. At last, Adidas have got like a flagship ADIZERO shoe that hits the Pegasus straight out of the park. Certainly a better performer as well than the Reebok Energy range too. There's way less bulk and weight here as well when you compare it up against the Puma Velocity Nitro 3. I think it's a good 40 gram difference between those two shoes. I think there's about 1.4 ounces between them. Similar stacks as well, so it's all down to that foam, I suppose, and they've just reduced the upper down. I mean, the Pegasus 41 is going to have a serious battle against the SL2. Quality-wise, out of the box, the shoe's really on point as well. There's no dodgy glue marks. There's no misaligned parts or anything. It feels like a pretty decent shoe for the amount of money. You know, I've paid double or triple as well on top for other shoes, and they're nowhere near as well built as this one. Just seems like there's a bit of care taken over them as well. The whole design of it, everything just works. So very impressive from that perspective. Impossible to vote it down really in terms of quality or build. I'm going to give the ADIZERO SL2 a 3 out of 3 for value after my initial runs. So that gives us a score, if I've totaled it up correctly of course, 11.5 out of 12, or 95% for the ADIZERO SL2 from Adidas. Go try it yourself, you know. No one's sponsoring me to make this. I bought it with my own cash. It's just an absolute banger. Best daily shoe out there, no comparison. Are you thinking of picking up the SL2? Maybe you've already got one. Did you enjoy the SL? I mean, if you like that, you're going to think this is like the GOAT shoe. There's very few others on the market that are as good as this one right now for the cash. So yeah, if you're a beginner starting out, go and grab one of these. It will pretty much do everything for you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one down in the comments. Musical interlude for you. There's a lot of political stuff going around at the moment. Try and avoid the majority of it, but some of it's pretty vile, it has to be said. There's people trying to cause division, trying to pull people apart, and you know, that's just a bad thing wherever you go, isn't it? One of my favourite bands, Idols from Bristol, just down the road. Their album Joy features some songs that always remind me about the good in people and how things can be, you know? Music's quite a uniting factor, isn't it? In the liner notes though for the track Danny Nedelko, though, there's something I wanted to read out here. There's a few lines that are really important. It says the empire would be nothing without our foreign families, because the empire was built by our foreign families to sustain an ideology. And it says here, I'm a human first and a Briton last. Long live the open-minded. The song's an absolute winner as well. Danny Nedelko is fantastic. Go and check him out, people. Idols from Bristol here in the UK. A very united spirit in that one. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed today's review. As always, hit that subscribe button if you're yet to do so, and give this video a thumbs up like. Also drop us a comment to help out with the algorithm. My name's Eddbud, and I'll be seeing you